I'm anticipating that the outcome for these horses is not going to be very good, and this is not going to be a very fun video to watch. I bet that both of these horses' coffin bones are atrophied almost to the point where they're non-existent. We'll see in the X-rays here in a few minutes when we show up, but there are some anatomical changes that happens to a horse and his coffin bone when they become laminitic and they are allowed to overgrow like the way these ponies were allowed to grow. Hey guys, so we're here at the vet clinic with the two ponies that we picked up the other day. I've gotten a little bit of heat online because I mentioned in the last video that it's probably likely that these ponies don't even make it. Now we're gonna have to put especially the one close to me down. Guys, this is the hard reality of poor animal husbandry. When you neglect your horses, this is what happens to them. And I know this is a super hard video to watch, but Ashton, go ahead and walk him out a little bit and you guys will see what I see and why I was so quick to make that judgment call. But we're gonna have a conversation with the vet after he shoots radiographs. Okay, we're shooting X-rays for the little guy right now. And kind of talk about prognosis and why some decisions have to be made with specific horses.
So these feet are in pretty tough shape as in terms of the osseous structures. These are the views one particular horse. What we have here is the metacarpus, then phalange 1, 2, and 3, and you can see that third phalange or the coffin bone is just totally lytic. This is what it should look like right here. This point on this and this solar surface is just basically rotted away. Not in terms of like infection, but you take tissues and you don't have a good blood supply because the anatomy is abnormal. And so without a good blood supply, the tissues just start to degrade and die over time. You can see the same thing here. The tip of this coffin bone is just pretty much sliced away. We shot some views from the front to the back. This is pretty normal tissue down here. I can see P1 there. P2 is abnormal and P3 is rotated. So we do have a deformity moving to the inside because the hoof wall is just grown abnormal. This probably started out as a severe laminitic situation. In laminitis, you get the lamina off the coffin bone and the lamina off the hoof wall, and they separate as they swell. So when they separate, the pressure is then applied down through the limb and it causes that coffin bone to start to rotate away from the hoof wall itself. Imagine standing on your fingernail and have that fingernail just ripped away from your tissues, and then to try to stand on it. So they get very, 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 very painful. Once the lamina separates, you're never going to get the lamina to go back together. All we can hope for is some scar tissue that forms that binds itself together. But again, scar tissue is not what normal tissue is like. It doesn't have the blood supply, doesn't have the strength. So on ponies especially, they get these repetitive injuries over and over and over, plus the abnormal wear on the feet now because they hurt so bad, and so they start to grow abnormally. Once you get lysis in those bones, it's just a downward slope. It slides so fast. There's nothing you can do to make the bone regrow. And there's no way to take the load off of those feet. Horses just are built to stand. And if we think they're gonna lay down and give those feet a chance to heal, it's not gonna happen. They have to have good normal foot in order to stand.
All right, guys. Now I know that this is kind of a tough video to watch. I know everybody was pulling for these ponies, but I'd like the vet to explain a little bit about the prognosis and the outcomes for things like this and why we're limited on what we can really do.
Yeah, we can't do very much medically on these guys, and so then you turn to kind of quality of life issues. We've got horses who are constantly in pain, who can't move around, so the musculature starts to fade. They're just going to have chronic inflammation, so the body doesn't function at a very high level. They're not comfortable, and in my opinion, it's just not worth it to have a horse that's not comfortable. I love to see them moving around freely, but to be all bound up and hurting, it's just not right in my opinion. I think that euthanasia is warranted in this case on both of these ponies.
Yeah, you guys need to remember, ponies aren't humans or they're dogs. We can't have them go lay down out in the pasture and recover. They get sore. We can't keep them on painkillers for the rest of their life. We can't keep them on bed rest. They need to be standing, they need to be moving. And that's why, unfortunately, this isn't going to go the direction that we'd all like it to go. But we are going to record our findings. We've taken a lot of pictures, and hopefully the research that we continually do on these cases will help avoid them in the future. Thanks, guys, and thank you.
Thanks, you bet.
If there's a farrier watching this video thinking I could have fixed them, you're living in a fantasy. You cannot put bone back inside a hoof capsule. Once pedal osteitis occurs, and once the coffin bone starts to atrophy, that damage is permanent. Changes in the lamina turn to scar tissue. The damage is done. All we can look at now is quality of life. We're going to have a lot more failures than successes, but the successes will make it worth it, guys. You look at what we're doing with Archie, that Palomino with a broken leg. Guys, he is recovering phenomenally. And that is all thanks to you guys and everybody that pitched in. So, you know, we did everything we could with these ponies. It is what it is. I mean, I don't really want to dwell on the failures. I think the best thing to do is to research it, study it, record it, so that we can avoid it. It's a hard video to watch. Thanks for tuning in. Your support means the world to us. When you hit subscribe or join, you're going to help us continue this mission and hopefully have some successes. Thanks, guys.